Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's another episode of Let's Talk Broncos. I'm here with Zach Seegers. Bree is not able to make it today, so it's just Zach and I. It's the boys. We're out here. Zach, how are you feeling, man?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really good. Man, have we found a quarterback? I'm still feeling high from last night. It doesn't seem, like the Bo Nix performance has, gotten dragged down as much upon reviewing the tape. It seems like he showed a lot of the growth we wanted to see from week one. And I think, showing at least steps in the right direction in like a single week of preseason practice and like split reps and all that is promising. So hopefully that's a trend that's here to stay.
I won't lie, Zach. I haven't seen much praise either, though. Feels like the national crowd just kind of went up, zip. Like I haven't heard much at all outside of local media. Shout out to Broncos. Shout out to Broncos media for covering Bo Nix this week. Yeah, no, I know. I'm super jacked up about it, man. The Broncos might have. We still have some check boxes to definitely have to check off still. But so far, so good. Like I think everything so far, he's done well, and I'm getting straight into it right now. I'm already you led me into it, so let's do it, man. A minute in, let's get into the biggest talking point in Broncos country right now. Zach, I know you talked a little about it yesterday, but a day after, you get a different sense. You get the all 22 film. You get a lot of just different opinions floating around. How are you feeling around Bo Nix now?
Yeah, and cards on the table. I haven't gotten the chance to review the film yet. I was working today, and then I was driving home, and just got in, really for this show. So I haven't gotten a chance to review the all 22 yet. I'm glad to see, like Frankie, who's doing a good job going through it, talking about it in our group chat. Robbie as well. I know, looked through it. And then also just like you said, the national response has been quiet, but a week ago it was very quick on Monday to be like, all right, calm down, Broncos fans, you're being a little too excited here. And that hasn't come today. So I don't know. I'm still feeling pretty good about it. I think that first performance, I wanted to see more of the creation stuff, right? That was what Nix was getting knocked for. The hectic footwork a little bit, being too quick to leave the pocket. But I wanted to see some playmaking ability from him because that was one of my bigger question marks in his game. Now we wanted to see a quarterback that was a little more controlled and contained and just like on rhythm, calmer footwork. And I think you saw checks across the board. I think he still had like a little bit of happy feet on like a couple plays, but again, I haven't gone back and reviewed the film. That was my feeling on a broadcast watch. So I don't know. I think like, yeah, he's not I don't want it to sound like he's a perfect quarterback and there's no flaws in his game whatsoever or anything like that, but I'm very excited about him. And I think, I look at he's had 9 drives now or 7 drives and 6 of them have been scoring drives. Like, I think that's pretty meaningful. And yeah, he's going up against backups. But one of those cases, he's playing with backups. And he went, 4 or 5 or whatever. I think he's going to move this Broncos offense better than we've seen it move since the first half of 2014 before Peyton started to decline.
Yeah, I do also agree with you, Zach, in that is meaningful to me. It is meaningful. I see elite quarterbacks all the time, Zach, not necessarily go through the right process all the time, but they're just so damn good. It still leads to good results. And I'm not saying that's going to hold up for Nix or that's going to be his bread and, butter right there. It's not going to be Mahomes. It's not going to be Josh Allen's. I just don't think that's who he is all the way. But it is encouraging that I'm still looking at some plays and like, okay, process could have been better. You probably could have slowed down your feet, right? Hey, man, just step up in the pocket. Why are you sprinting into it? Things like that. Yeah, I'm looking at it, and it was like, okay, 8-yard gain, 9-yard gain. Man, that one was a touchdown. Wow, there's another scoring drive right there. And I'm criticizing the process. It's still leading to good results. That's encouraging to me after watching the film. I do think that a lot of the process was better this week. You wanted to see him get better in the areas people were saying he wasn't very great in last week, and I thought he did that. Like, I didn't see him scramble straight up into the pocket as much. I didn't see every single throw leaving his feet. Like, I didn't see these type of things happening. And I thought he went through his progressions pretty well too. There are still places where you need to see, this is a checked box right here. I'm not saying that it's all the way. We figured out Bo Nix is the truth. I don't think we figured it out yet, Zach, but I do think we are getting closer to it. I'm seeing the progress being made, and that's what I'm trying to see from my rookie quarterback. From 1 week to the next week, did he improve? And so far, I'm saying yes, he's actually improved. Like, you saw the game get a little slower for him. I don't think the nerves were there like I thought they were in game one. Like, I'm seeing the game get better for him. So I'm happy right now about Bo Nix.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be. And I think, and it's something to talk about, I think this has to do with the frame they're talking about it from. And some of that is they're coming to it as people that didn't believe a lot in Bo Nix pre-draft process, and they're kind of looking for reasons they didn't necessarily believe in him, while Broncos country understandably is going to look for the reasons to believe in Bo Nix and not so much the reasons why not to believe it. On top of that, if you Bill Barnwell or Mina Kimes working for ESPN, if you guys watch NFL Live, they don't spend a lot of time on like the Tennessee Titans or, the dregs of the league. They spend a lot of time on the Chiefs or the Bills or the Ravens, or the Niners or the Rams, the teams at the top of the league. And those teams generally have pretty great quarterbacks. So I think if that's the lens you're viewing it from, you are going to be maybe a little lower on Bo Nix. But I don't know. I'm feeling pretty optimistic as a whole. I think, there's still reason for growth, but man, let's go. I'm all in. The one thing I do want to stress though, because he's probably going to be named the starter. That means he probably won't play the final preseason game. Strap in. These first two games might be really ugly. I mean, he's going up against Mike McDonald, who just got a head coaching job because he was the best defensive play caller in the league a year ago. And he's going up against the Mike Tomlin defense and a Steelers defense, that just in general has been, top 10 consistently over the last few years. And it's a result of not only their coaching, but their talent. You've got TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton. They've just got dudes, and that's just their front. You've still got Minka in the back end and Joey Porter Jr., who's a really talented up and coming corner. Those first two games for Bo Nix might be ugly just because a lot of quarterbacks might go with Baltimore this year. That is a very complex, Seattle, where Mike McDonald is. That's a very complex, hard to decipher defense. And, Pittsburgh has a lot of talent. A lot of quarterbacks are going to struggle there too. So if the first two games are ugly and don't match the preseason, I would, still hold your Knicks stock.
I'm holding you to that, Zach Seegers, by the way. If you come on here on this podcast frantically, I'm going to have this clip saved. I'm going to play it on the podcast. This is going to be crazy.
Frantic, I'm with you, but we can talk about him having a bad game. Sorry.
No, we absolutely can talk about him having a bad game, but I don't want all the grand takes. I'm playing this clip. Kinger says, are you still doing stuff with Perna? Unfortunately not, but Brandon Perna is still a really great friend of the show and still in our corner, still awesome guy, and still very much support him. Casey says, if they actually believe in Bo this year, can they do something? Why not trade for, or this year can do something? Why not trade for something like Ayuk? Would you consider trading for Ayuk? Have you seen enough from Bo Nix to trade for him?
I mean, yeah, but I don't even know if it's I don't know. I guess you do have to see something from Bo Nix to want to make that swing. But I don't know. You're probably, unless it's a total disaster, which it definitely doesn't look like, you're not going to be wanting to spend next year's first round pick on a quarterback. And that's the thing. You're probably losing a first round pick. You're also going to be losing a talented player. That's the other bit. It's been well reported the Niners are going to want a quality player coming back. And that makes sense if you think about it. Why trade Ayuk now for draft capital that cannot pay off for you at all this season while you're chasing a Super Bowl. They like the Browns rumored to send Amari Cooper back. They need a piece that can help immediately. And it's been rumored that, or reported rather, that they would prefer a receiver, but it doesn't have to be. Maybe it is Sutton. I think that's the obvious answer. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe it could be a Garrett Bowles. They could use some potential long-term help at tackle with the Trent Williams situation lingering. Logistics aside, yeah, I would go for it. I think Brandon Ayuk is a top 5 receiver. I think he's dramatically underrated by NFL fans. I think largely because Debo had that great season 2 years ago, but Debo is much more of a gadgety player. Like Ayuk is the I don't know, blue blood receiver to me there. I think he is so dang good. Reception perception, I think, is the best resource for like wide receiver analysis out there. And they have him as a 90th percentile receiver across the board, running every route in the book against man coverage, against zone coverage, making plays after the catch, hands, all of it. He is a phenomenal talent. There's a non-zero chance he's the best receiver in the league in the next few years. I wouldn't bet on it, but he's on such an ascension right now. This is an all-pro caliber at a premier position, and one the Denver Broncos need, and one that would benefit the development of their young quarterback. I would absolutely be making calls to San Francisco.
I would be making calls, but I think I would have maybe a little stricter of I don't think I would win the trade battle there for Brandon Ayuk. I don't think I just think I want to see more from Bo Nix. I don't think Brandon Ayuk's doing much for me if Bo Nix turns out to not be anything good. I'd rather have my draft capital, if I'm being honest with you, in a situation where Bo Nix is not good. So yeah, I don't know. I would just send different chips there, Zach. But all in all, I don't hate it. I think this one's interesting. Atomic 626 says, I think Jerry Jeudy would complement Bo Nix type of quarterback. We need someone who gets open. It is just funny because I do think like if Jerry Jeudy was able to kind of read the room a little better, I bet you this year right now would be his career year. I'm not saying he'd be an elite wide receiver. I'm not saying he'd be the best wide receiver in the league. I'm not saying any of that type of stuff. I do think this would be the best year of his career, though. I think Bo Nix compliments a Jerry Jeudy damn near perfectly. The RPO stuff, I think, like just the getting open stuff, the underneath stuff, just all the stuff that Jerry Jeudy's never been able to play with, and now he would be able to.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think it'd be a great fit. I'm still just not a Jerry Jeudy believer. I don't know how much there is to tap into there. Like, I agree. Bo Nix is the type of quarterback that would fit best with Jeudy of any type of quarterback. And even then, those types of quarterbacks are going to be on time. Like that's Bo Nix's thing. He's running the offense in rhythm on time. Jeudy was not a guy that was hitting his landmarks on time. Like his footwork looks awesome in those like summer workout drills in Miami. When it's actually like game day and you've got to be like the timing of the offense matters and you're expected to be certain places at a certain time. You can't be like freelancing on your releases and on your routes as much as I think he has. So I think there is still a fairly low ceiling there, but I agree. It would be a career year for him probably. And that's more the receiver I would think would pair with Bo Nix. Like this receiver room, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, 6'3" or whatever, Josh Reynolds, that looks like a great Russell Wilson receiving core to me. Get him some big bodies that can win the ball downfield. It's not exactly what I would think of with Bo Nix. My positive spin there is hopefully this, pushes the offense more towards experimenting with some more vertical, deep stuff and growing and helping develop that bit of Bo Nix's game. We know how precise he is underneath. And we can debate the deep ball thing, whether it was he wasn't like asked to do it or, he wasn't able to do it. Either way, getting him some more rhythm there and some more reps, with some aggressive downfield passing, I think would be great. And I think this group of talent lends itself to that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree with you. I want to get into like our game observations here, Zach. Let's start off with offense. We've already done Bo Nix, so why not just continue with the offense here? Is there anything you saw offensively that stands out and you want to touch on?
I mean, Javonte Williams is one thing that just has me so excited. He looks so much different than he did a year ago to me. Um, I don't know if it's all the way back to rookie year Javonte. I won't go there, but I think it is a notably different or noticeably different player than what the Broncos had a season ago. I think he just has more juice. Like the vision stuff is still a real frustration in his game. But hopefully with reps that maybe goes away. I don't know. I guess he played a lot last year and it didn't go away. Probably isn't going anywhere. But if he, with that in mind, if he has a little more juice, I think this run game can be a lot better. Again, even with all the problems that existed, Russell Wilson, Javonte being off injury, et cetera, they were 9th in the NFL in success rate, rushing success rate. I think a healthier Javonte, Jaleel McLaughlin with another year under his belt will only help that. On the flip side, I'm a little worried with Estime, if I'm being honest. I think you saw it most on that reception last night, if we're just going to focus on last night's game, where he catches the ball and he looks like a battleship turning. I was thinking of one of my favorite NFL analysts of all time, Chris Wesseling, used to call Leonard Fournette Battleship Fournette. And I was thinking about that a little with Estime. And I want to see a little more juice there from him. I think some of that situationally, he's been carrying the ball in a lot of short yardage, loaded box situations. But I don't know, Joe. And I know you were a big believer in Estime, Joey. So I'm curious. I would love to hear if you disagree with me. I don't see the same pop that I feel I saw on his Notre Dame tape. And he was never a long distance runner, 4.7 40. We're aware. But I feel like he would hit that hole violently. And there's been a few carries so far in Denver where I worry he's I don't know. It doesn't feel like he has the same burst to me, but I also feel like I might be Chicken Little over here.
So I'm still in wait and see. I see what you're saying here, Zach. I absolutely do see what you're saying. I just do wonder how much of that is the circumstances, the situations he's been in and stuff like that. I'm still very much in see, because I saw the Notre Dame tape. I saw what it looks like. So it would be kind of shocking to me if I just saw a big drop off in physical capabilities from his Notre Dame to preseason football. I don't necessarily think that's what's going to happen. I think he should be fine, but I'm still kind of in wait and see. He had some good pass pro reps. He caught the ball out of the backfield a couple times, which was a huge question for him coming out of Notre Dame. They just didn't really throw him the ball a ton. He's done that. And yeah, I don't know. I think I know what Samaje Perine is as a runner, and it's not anything special. I don't think he's breaking many tackles. I don't think he's explosive at all. A lot of these issues you're bringing up with Audric Estime can throw right back at you with Samaje Perine and probably say it's worse.
Beatty, though? What about Beatty?
Yeah, but Beatty, you're sacrificing so much of the other ability that I like from Estime and Perine. I think you're just completely throwing away that pass pro ability and stuff like that. And when I'm already projecting Jaleel McLaughlin to be a huge part of this offense, I probably want someone like that on my roster. Especially if Javonte's had his injury and stuff. I don't know when I'm going to get there. So I think that's my only thing. I think you make some good points there, Zach, but that's all. On offense, I have to talk about the offensive line a little bit. I've been really encouraged with Matt Parrott. I have been. And Zach, I know he sucked last year for the Giants and throughout his entire career, pretty much. But Frankie's in the chat right now, and I think Frankie would agree with me with this because I've seen him tweet it a million times. The Broncos should be taking swings on guys that are kind of, high potential but haven't worked out yet in the NFL. And I think Matt Parrott's a pretty great example of that, just knowing his physical capabilities. This is a 6'7" tackle with a 99 percentile wingspan, according to mock draftables. This is the type of guy the Broncos should be taking swings on, trying to get him in the room with Zach Strief and seeing if we can make this guy into something. It's not the most important year in the world. It's more important, really, just that some of our young guys look good for the future. And I think Matt Parrott's looked really good. I think he's been pretty dominant in the run game, especially in that Colts game, if I'm being honest. And I've seen so many times his just physical tools are impressive. Like you see those arms on display. So many times guys try to speed rush him and try to work around the corner, and Matt Parrott just easily keeping guys on his fingertips, riding them completely out of the play. Stuff like that just makes me kind of giddy, excited. The Broncos like running their extra offensive linemen so much. They did that with Quinn Bailey a ton last year. It might get better with Matt Parrott this year, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and that's something I did not expect at all. It is really exciting. And another point in his game, I think he's a really good mover for someone his size, as well as just having the reach and everything. It's really exciting if you could make that work, because he was atrocious last year. I'm curious. I'll play a little game with you here, but first I'll give you what we know, what he was last year. Out of the 105 tackles with at least 130 snaps last year, he ranked 100th overall. These are using PFF's grades, which I know aren't perfect, but offensive line metrics are rough. So ranked 100 out of 105 qualifying tackles in terms of overall grade, 105th out of 105 as a run blocker, and 77th out of 105 as a pass blocker. This year, Joey, where do you think he ranks overall in terms of overall grade? Among 105 tackles, I've kept the sample size the exact same.
Man, 50th? I don't know. He's a
second.
That's crazy. So like my eyes aren't deceiving me. He looks good. And that makes me happy.
And then against the run, or in the run game, I guess, with the run, third. Yeah. In the pass game, 29th. He has been, again, wildly one of, and again, PFF grades, if you want to, pick a fight with them and say he shouldn't be second, he should be 17th. Fine. Point being, he went from being a second, third percentile tackle to, again, in preseason, he's being compared to a lot of backups and whatnot, but being like a starting caliber tackle. He was a horrific backup last year. Now in preseason, he's looking like a passable starter. That's great. I mean, Zach Strief, tip of the cap to him. I think the rest of the second wave of offensive linemen last night had a rough day. And so I hit Matt Parrott with some slander last night, if I'm being honest. He was the easy name pull for dogging the second wave offensive line, but that was unfair. And he was one of the good ones out there.
Yeah, and another piece I haven't seen anybody talk about is he got guard snaps last night. It wasn't a ton. It was I think one series. But so I'm not going to come away with any grand take there. But in those guard snaps, I was like, okay, I kind of want to see a little more of this too. Like that ended up doing well. So yeah, exciting there. The only other offensive guy I kind of want to hit on, Zach, is Tim Patrick. It was reported, Zach, and I know some of Broncos country remembers this. Last year, he was supposed to be the Michael Thomas going into the offseason. Do you remember this talk?
Yeah, and it wasn't just...
Yeah, go ahead.
And it wasn't just talk. We know from... people pretty well informed about the situation that he was slated to be that number one guy. It wasn't just like a physical comparison thing or anything. Like, he was told at the least that he was going to be the centerpiece of the passing game, before he went down with that Achilles tear.
Yeah. Yeah. Whew. I know. So the hype was real there with Sean Payton clearly adoring this guy's game. And I think we can confidently say now that is confirmed. That was not just a rumor. That is true, because Sean Payton immediately is giving this guy not just looks. He is giving him that starting role, and it looks like he's going to be a huge part of this offense. Not just a regular guy. I think he's going to be a huge part of this offense this next year, or at least planned for that way. And I think that's just exciting. Coming off of 2 season-ending injuries, you just don't see stuff like this. You really don't. Tim Patrick is a guy in the same circumstances. I think 99% of the team, 99% of the NFL right now, with those same circumstances, is trying to make your roster spot. Like, trying their best if they're not already cut. So it's unbelievable. I think it's an awesome story, and I'm wishing him for the best. I would be wrong not to bring that up just because of the story involved. It's fantastic for Tim Patrick.
Darn it. Yeah, I fully agree. Tim Patrick, I think, it's such an amazing story. Like you said, it's amazing that he's in this position, but even beyond that, looking the way he looks in it. It'd be one thing if he was, earning this spot as like a stellar, possession receiver. And we were like, he doesn't move the same, but he's still like a physical presence, and you can use him as kind of like a move tight end, or, if it was something like that. I really thought that Tim Patrick would just be fundamentally changed as a player. Even if he did return, just like he wouldn't have the same juice. Man, I don't think he's missing any juice. It's crazy. This is a receiver that's, I think, 30 or nearing 30, and he's had 2 devastating lower body injuries, and he is moving so well. I'm very, very happy for Tim Patrick. Just an incredible person and player. Well deserved. Yeah, I could not be happy for him. I'm really excited for what we're going to see from Tim Patrick this year. I think the only negative is kind of the ripple effects coming off of that. Excuse me, as I drop my phone. The ripple effects coming off of that. You have, Marvin Mims now kind of relegated to the bench, and I know it's hard to accept, people, but the coaches are telling you this with their snap count. And then you have Reynolds relegated to the boundary when he's, typically been a slot only receiver. And I think it's fair to wonder, how well is he going to thrive or perform out there rather. So I think it's great news for Tim Patrick. I think it's disappointing to see that Marvin Mims hasn't been able to claim a starting spot in this offense. And then I think, it's going to be a question mark over, if Reynolds can adapt to this.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think all of that's fair. I want to move to the defensive side of the ball, Zach. I think there's plenty to talk about here. And I think the most obvious great performance we saw yesterday was Zach Allen. Watching the film, I do have to say it was against the second offensive lineman, but this is exactly what you would hope an elite player would do to a second string offensive lineman. Zach Allen didn't just go out there and win a lot of reps. He whooped their ass and took names. It was every single snap Zach Allen was on the field, damn near. He was beating them like a drum. So this was just encouraging in Zach Allen's first tick of the season. This is his first time on the field. We've seen him. He didn't just win. He dominated that game. He looked elite against the Packers second string offensive lineman. It just bodes well for the season. DJ Jones and Malcolm Roach already looked good. We saw that in preseason game ones. Adding a Zach Allen to this team or to that unit, who is probably the best in the unit. Not probably, he is the best in that unit. The Broncos front should be pretty solid this year, especially their starters. I think they're going to be good.
I think so. I mean, I worry about the rotation still, but that front four is good. Though, honestly, like Matt Henningsen's had a solid preseason. So I don't know. Like I am feeling a lot better about the defensive front than I was last year. And Zach Allen was amazing last night. He looked more like the 99 from LA than the 99 from Denver. I mean, that was an incredible performance. Like, yeah, you just don't often see players dominate to that level. It was definitely in part because he was going against backups. But I'm sorry, you don't see people dominate like that often against backups even. So it was really fun to see.
Yeah. It's just checking the box of what you want to see working against backups. That's what Zach Allen showed. Maybe even a little more. Jaquan McMillan. He's had a really, really impressive offseason, Zach. I'm not going to say like just the preseason has been the all thing. Like, I'm not just going all off the preseason snaps. We've gone to training camp a few times. I think that's where I'm getting more of an idea of where we are with our defensive backs right now. I just don't think we have the sample size in the preseason to say this guy's going to be really good or this guy's going to be really bad. He's had a killer offseason, though. He's been awesome from what I've seen. And you saw a little sneak peek of it last night with that PBU. What do you think there? Do you think the Broncos have one of the best nickels in the league?
I don't know if we can go there quite yet, but definitely, I don't know, one of the biggest junkyard dogs in the league. I think he's going to create a lot of splash plays still. I think he's going to be physical in the run game. I think he's going to be physical in the pass game. And he's going to be a fan favorite player at the very least. And got a new nickname last night, and a pretty damn cool one at that. Jaquan McKillen. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. You didn't like McQuillan?
No.
That one was.
What's McQuillan? What does that mean?
Well, none of these were nicknames. He just couldn't pronounce his name. He just kept saying different shit. Anyway, Zach, who stood out to you on defense? Throw me a name.
Jonah Ellis. You said that Zach Allen might have been the most obvious great performance, and I think you're right. He was making them look like children out there. I think the maybe most impressive and maybe the most important performance on the defensive side of the ball last night for the Broncos was Jonah Ellis. Edge rusher is a position that has vexed this team since Von Miller left. It's been a real problem. Browning and Benito and Cooper, I think, all have things that are exciting about them. Cooper's the most stable one, but he doesn't have that exciting upside. I think Benito has some really intriguing pass rush ability, but it seems like he might only be a designated pass rusher in his career. Baron Browning has really exciting flashes, but he hasn't put it all together, and he's struggled to stay healthy. They need something there. And it could have been one of those three guys breaking out or taking a leap or something of that. Like Jonah Ellis being as good as he's been this preseason, looking like one of the best defensive players in the league, is tremendous. I think he's going to have a much bigger role in the regular season than we were forecasting for him just a few weeks ago. I think they might have found a star with him, but he already looks like a huge hit. I mean, getting this from him already, and I know it's against backups, but like it jumps off the film. It's so obvious that this guy is pretty amazing. Seeing this already in the third round, I feel confident already saying like, okay, that's a hit. You hit on that pick. That looks pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, Zach, it kind of reminds you of just a couple off seasons ago when Jonathan Cooper was having his breakout preseason campaign, right? It was obvious then during the preseason that Jonathan Cooper was a player you wanted to keep on your team and a player that could get rotation snaps. I feel similarly about Jonah Ellis right now. He's good enough to get snaps on this defense without question. I just do. I think he's shown enough working in the run game, especially against tight ends. I don't think that's normal for a player with his frame to come in the NFL and do that right away. And he's doing it kind of right away in the preseason. He's blowing up tight ends. He's setting a tough edge. He's playing really good. And then just along with that, you're getting the pass rush stuff that you wanted to see from him. And I think the reason why the Broncos drafted him, I was a bigger believer in the run with Jonah Ellis than a lot of people. I, though, was also worried that, okay, he's pretty good at this in college. I even noted, I have a tweet out there that's, man, he whoops tight ends' asses. But I didn't know how it was going to translate to the NFL. You just don't know with guys at that size, just undersized edge guys. It's harder to translate. So, yeah, you had a thought, Zach? You're muted. I have to tell you. I was going to let you go, but you're muted.
Thank you for telling me I was on a different tab. I was going to be going for a while. And yeah, thank you. Anyways, he's been incredible as a pass rusher. The run stuff is incredibly promising, but the pass rush stuff is there in spades too, and it's incredibly exciting. In pass rush win rate, and again, we're comparing him to preseason guys. Some of these guys are going up against backups, third string, whatever. But in terms of pass rush win rate, he currently ranks 7th in the NFL with a 25% pass rush win rate. That's absurd. That would be like top of the NFL. That's TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons stuff. That's not something that would, carry over into the regular season, you imagine, but just to highlight how dominant he's been. And then if you look at pass rush productivity, which is a PFF stat, it tries to measure, your per snap pass rush impact weighting, sacks and quarterback hits over pressures, but, giving a little bit of credit to all of it. He's leading the NFL, or leading all edges in the NFL, I should say, in pass rush productivity with a score of 25. That's absolutely disgusting. Again, that would be beyond elite stuff. It's so promising to see this. It's such a, I don't know. I hate to use the word promising a million times, but such a promising foundation. Again, I don't think this is going to vanish. I don't think he's going to be, an absolute god against, regular season football like he's been in the preseason. Because again, he's playing like a dang defensive player of the year in the preseason. The highest pass rush productivity score in the league last year was Micah Parsons with a 12.6. He's currently double that. It's disgusting how impactful he's been as a pass rusher.
Yeah, I agree. He's been absolutely phenomenal. It seems like the Broncos hit. It feels like the Broncos at least got on second with that draft pick, right? Like they at least hit a double there. We'll see if that happens again. This is a 3rd round pick, and he's really, really showing out in the preseason so far. Next guy I wanted to talk about was PJ Locke. I just have some quick thoughts on him. It feels like the safeties have been grossly kind of ignored through the preseason. No one's really talked about the safeties other than the kid that got the 2 picks. What was his name? Keidron Smith, I believe.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything about Key. No one's talking about Key like he's not an undrafted dude that is bounced on 2 teams. It is starting. It's crazy. By the way, freak show athlete. I was looking up his RAS stuff. I don't know anything about his game. Really good athlete, though. He is. I wanted to talk about PJ Locke, though. PJ, I don't think gets credit for a lot of his game. He's extremely physical. When he comes down and fills the run, it's not just normal tackle. It's you're stopping in right there. Right where I hit you, no more yards gained. I think he's been really good in the run game, specifically just filling downhill. I expect to see more of that. I think that's just part of his game at this point. I saw it last year as well. He's a hard-hitting safety, very physical. And I think that's what stands out most about his game. Just kind of explaining PJ Locke. He did have the one bad play in the Colts where he kind of just took a gamble on the tight end. It was a throw over the middle, and he missed the tackle on the tight end. What should have been like a 7-yard gain now turns into a 20-yard gain. That's really the only negative play I've seen from PJ Locke so far this offseason. I'm just excited to see him blossom in the starting role this next year.
I fully agree. Yeah, I think what we've already seen is very exciting, and man, I can't wait for more. I just want more PJ Locke. Obviously he's a friend of the show, but this is one of the bigger X factors for the Broncos this season. I feel you are losing Justin Simmons, who was one of the best players on this team, and filling that void is going to be very difficult, especially if Brandon Jones is beat up, as he's been, at points throughout his career. Seeing promising signs from Devon Key is great on that front, and then same thing with PJ Locke. I think he's going to thrive in this role as he's thrived in every other role the Broncos have thrown him into.
Well, get me one more defensive player, Zach, that you think would be interesting to talk about. I have 2 if you don't have one.
Throw me one, because I dropped my phone earlier in the show, and that's got all my notes on it.
Damn. Okay. I want your thoughts on Alex Singleton. You've been a very boisterous, loud Alex Singleton hater. Have you been impressed with his preseason so far? I think it's been pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely has made a solid impact. He's been, I think a good player. What you want to see from Alex Singleton. He hasn't done anything to like make me change my opinion of him. I think he looks like the same guy. He's all over the place. He's all, around the ball. But I think, credit to him, that's been a constant of his career. The difficulty for him, has been more like tackling consistently, covering consistently. And I don't think we saw anything here that is going to alleviate those concerns. Just wanted to pull up the stat quick. So I'd be talking from a place, an informed place here. So he's only had 7 tackle opportunities this preseason. So I'm talking about a very small sample size here. I'm well aware of that, but this is just to illustrate the point. On those 7 tackle opportunities, he's missed one of them. It's a 14.3% PFF says. I feel like that math's wrong for some reason, but 14% missed tackle rate. Right? That is what it is. Last year, when he was top 10 in the NFL, you know what percentage of tackle opportunities he missed? 14. 14. The exact same number. And I get and it's not to say it's a very small sample. Guess what? 1 in 7 is going to always divide out to 14%. So it's, I am well aware of these facts, but to talk about whoa, Alex Singleton's impressive. Zach, how, are you revisiting your Singleton takes? No, he's missing quite literally the exact same percentage of tackles as he did last year. And so I haven't seen anything that says this is a changed man.
I think he's largely the same player, but I also thought he was largely the same player after his first year as a Bronco as he was the second year of his Bronco. If I'm being honest,
he's different.
I just think surrounding pieces change the perception of how he's viewed. I think surrounding pieces can make him look better. I think surrounding pieces can make him look worse. I do think that this year there's a better chance we get closer to what he was or the production level we saw his first year than last year. If I'm being honest, just with the additions across the defensive line, I think John Franklin Myers helps him out. I think Malcolm Roach helps him out. I think of Zach Allen and just the whole group together probably helps him out. So that's my opinion on Alex Singleton right now. I only have one more player I kind of want to talk about, Zach.
Last thing, really quick. I will say, just because I was talking about the missed tackles point, in 2022, the year we all thought Alex Singleton was so much better, 6.5% missed tackle rate. So missing tackles half as frequently as he did in 2023.
Interesting. Okay. Last guy I wanted to touch on was Riley Moss. I don't have a grand sweeping take here of Riley Moss. I think he's been fine in what I've seen, but he's also gotten beat in what I've seen a couple times, but he's also made some really good plays. So I'm just left in the boat. Here's my opinion right now. I don't know what the hell to expect for Riley Moss. I feel like no questions have been answered for me on the Riley Moss front. I'm still very confused what the Broncos are going to get from the cornerback 2 position. I do think, though, I do have to say, going into the season, I was down on Riley Moss. I just couldn't figure out why Vance Joseph wouldn't play him last year, right? I think now I'm a little more, this guy probably has a better shot at being good than I thought last year, for sure. I think there's that opportunity because I've seen the play and he has made good plays. I just don't know how consistent it's going to be. It's just not a good enough sample size. I still don't know what to expect there.
Yeah, I think he has earned that job for sure. I think he's looked solid. Definitely some bad, reps there too. Getting burnt deep in this last game. He got up and celebrated it, but it was like, I'm sorry, man, you got burned there. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I think it's in the TBD column. I think if I had to make my prediction right now, I would say it's going to be probably similar maybe in terms of tier to like what we saw of like Fabian Moreau in terms of like, yeah, it's fine, but not exemplary. And I think it's going to feel different in the sense that I think there's probably going to be a lot more like, God damn it, Riley Moss moments. And I think there's going to be a lot more hell yeah, Riley Moss moments than there were with Fabian Moreau. I think Fabian Moreau was like a steady coverage guy and would kill you as a tackler. I mean, killed the defense. He was an absolute liability as a tackler. While Riley Moss, I think some splash to him.
Do you know when you play Madden or the new NCAA, when you're trying to break down and make a tackle and you hold the L2 button, the strafe, and your guys kind of just like sliding back and forth, like you're not attacking upfield? Bro, Fabian Moreau was the king of the L2, bro. He was the king of it. It didn't matter. The guy was 15 yards away. He's strafing downfield. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it.
He set up a tackle like he was trying to take a charge from like LeBron James coming down the lane. Like he's like, oh, he's coming, gotta get away.
You're right. Fabian Moreau acted like he had to set his feet. It was bad. It just drove me insane. Like, he did make the tackle most of the time. But it was like, man, you could have got him for a 2-yard loss. Why is he 15 yards down the field as you're making that? It just made no sense.
He'd get carried every single time. He'd be carried by Tank Dell.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't happen last year, but it would. Yeah, I'm excited to see what we see from Riley Moss. Again, I don't think he's going to be maybe as steady in coverage. I think he's going to get burned more. I think he's going to have more splash plays. The ball hawk nature at Iowa, I think, has already shown up some. I know he hasn't gotten a takeaway, but I think he's made some good plays on the ball. And the physicality, as to what we were just joking about, is going to be a nice step up as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, this was a very fun show.
Wait, no special teams love?
Hell no, we don't have any. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding, by the way, too. Zach and I did argue about kickers during the joint practice. I don't know what we were doing. Zach's just a hater of Will Lutz. I don't know what's up with all of this.
I acknowledge the data pointing to the fact that he's a below average.
I did research on this, by the way. We'll talk about it. I'll call you or something. People don't want to hear it, but anyways, this is a fun show. I'm happy with all the players we got to go through. Again, if you're just tuning in now, we talked about Bo Nix, we talked about Matt Parrott, Audric Esme, Tim Patrick, Javonte Williams, Zach Allen, Jaquan McMillan, Jonah Ellis, Alex Singleton, Riley Moss, and PJ Locke. If any of those guys pique your interest, make sure you're rewinding the show, go back. We talked about all those guys, and I think we kind of went expansively. We talked about in depth on all those players. In news, if you guys like Carter Dillon, who's often on the show with Zach, especially after games, he's been on there a lot recently, and you're also a fan of the CU Bus, we have another channel going, which I'll link at some point with I'm going to drop an episode tonight. So keep an eye out. I'm going to post it on Twitter. If that piques your interest, make sure you're keeping out for Carter Dillon and I's episode. We just kind of broke down CU's additions and guys that left the team as well. So it'll be really fun. We're going to do that once a week. Colorado football is back. College football back. It's going to be great. But yeah, Zach, do you have anything you want to get off your chest before I sign off here?
I just say, people, go check it out. It's going to be called Let's Talk Buffs. You can look it up, find it easily. I've already got the social media accounts snagged on most social media platforms. So hit us with a follow on Twitter, Instagram. If you want to support the show, we'd be very grateful for it. I'm super excited for Carter to have this opportunity. I know he's going to do a great job with it. He's done a great job covering Broncos for us. Buffs is his forte, and he hasn't gotten the chance to show that to you guys because it's a Broncos show. We might reference the Buffs here to here, but it's not our focus. He is a CU Buff savant, knows it as well or better than anyone I know. And I spent time on that CUB. So I would highly recommend it. Check it out. Let's Talk Buffs. Yeah, I think that's effusive enough. I'll go back in to YouTube Studio and add the link to that channel in the description. If you're watching this live, it's not there right now. If you're watching a recording of this, or you're watching this not live, it's down there in the description. Go click on it. Go hit us with a subscription.
Love it. Well, guys, thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure you are liking this video, please. And until next time, go Broncos.